Title: The Last Repair. In a quiet corner of the English countryside, where the mornings smelled of damp grass and chimney smoke, there stood a tiny cottage with peeling white paint and blue shutters that had faded under years of rain. In that cottage lived Mr. Ellis, a gentle old man with soft eyes, a sweater that always looked knitted by someone who loved him, and hands that trembled only when he wasn't working. Everyone in the village simply called him the man who fixes things. He never advertised, never charged much, never hurried. He believed everything and everyone deserved patience. Inside his small workshop were shelves filled with memories, old radios humming faintly, clocks ticking in mismatched rhythms, cracked photo frames, lanterns, pipes, spoons, and 100 little treasures brought by people who couldn't bear to throw them away. But there was one thing Mr. Ellis never told anyone. He didn't repair things for money. He repaired them because he knew what it felt like to be broken. One chilly November morning, a young woman named Clara knocked on his door. Her eyes were red, not from the cold, but from something heavier. She held a tiny music box. "It was my mother's," she said softly. "It hasn't played since she passed." Mr. Ellis nodded gently. He didn't say sorry for your loss or offer cliches. He simply said, "Leave it with me, dear. Some things just need time." As he worked, Clara sat quietly, listening to the soft clicking of his tools. After a long pause, she whispered, "It's strange. So many people tell me to move on, but I don't think grief works like that." Mr. Ellis paused, looked at her, and said the words that would stay with her for the rest of her life. "Grief isn't a thing you finish. It's a place you learn to live in, but you don't have to live in it alone." Clara's eyes glistened. The old man wound the key, and for the first time in years, the music box played, a trembling, imperfect melody, but beautiful because of its cracks. Clara held it to her chest, tears sliding down her cheeks, and whispered, "Thank you. I didn't realize how much I needed this." Mr. Ellis just smiled. "You came here to fix the box, but it was never the box that was broken." As months passed, more villagers visited, but each one left with something more precious than a repaired object. A widower brought an old clock that hadn't ticked since his wife died. Mr. Ellis fixed the clock and sat with him for tea, listening to stories no one else had time to hear. A retired school teacher brought a broken pair of spectacles. He repaired them and reminded her that wisdom doesn't fade just because birthdays come faster. A lonely old man brought a radio. He fixed it, tuned it to his favorite station, and said, "Voices can keep you company when silence becomes too loud." Everyone who entered his cottage walked out feeling lighter, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with tears, but always with a little more hope. Then one winter evening, after the first snowfall dusted the village, Mr. Ellis sat in his favorite armchair by the window. He watched the streetlights flicker, listened to the distant sound of children's laughter, and held a small wooden box he'd been fixing for himself. It was the only thing he'd never shown anyone. Inside that box was a photograph of his wife, the woman he had loved for 50 years, the woman he lost long before the village ever knew his name. He touched her picture gently and whispered, "I think I finally fixed what needed fixing." The next morning, he was found peacefully asleep in the same chair, the box resting on his chest. The village mourned him in a way reserved only for people who had quietly stitched themselves into everyone's life. Clara came too, carrying her mother's music box. When she stepped inside his workshop, she noticed something none of them had seen before. On every shelf, taped beside every repaired item, were tiny handwritten notes, but each addressed to the person who had brought the item. Notes of kindness, notes of hope, notes of understanding, and then someone found one final note pinned to the inside of his coat. "If you are reading this, thank you for letting me fix your things. You repaired far more in me than I ever repaired for you." Clara pressed the note to her heart and whispered, "We'll keep fixing each other, just like you taught us." Years passed, but the cottage never emptied. People still visited, not to repair broken objects, but to remember the old man who believed that broken things and broken hearts always deserved another chance. And whenever someone felt lost, they would repeat his quiet wisdom. Most broken things don't stay broken forever. They just need someone to believe in them. And in that moment, they felt whole again. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow.